God the Father, God the Son, God the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Amen.
Please be seated. Once in a while, in our lectionary, we hear some real wonderful stories from the Old Testament. Today's lesson is about a very decorated army officer. His name is Naaman. He had a lot of accolades that he had received in his military career, and he was respected in Syria as a commander. Probably he was the commander-in-chief. He was a very powerful man, military hero, held in such high honor, and the historian in the scripture gives him that credit. And Naaman takes control of the story right from the beginning in the scripture reading that was read to us today. Two features dominate Naaman's story: the status as a foreigner and his leprosy. From the outset, we understand he is a great man, but he is not a member of the Jewish tribe. He's an outsider. In fact, he had been instrumental in getting control of the Israelites and their country. He is not part of the chosen people. He is both a stranger and a leper. He may be great and powerful, but as far as the historian is concerned, Naaman has no standing in Israel. It's a story of contradictions, filled with more twists and turns than a mountain highway. He's powerful, yet is powerless against the disease that he has. He's a foreigner, yet held in high esteem by Yahweh to pour out his blessing upon it. He is feared by the king of Israel, but also wholly dependent on the help of an unnamed slave girl. The story illustrates to us the contradiction in a person's life. And then you see Naaman growing impatient, and he wanted a quick cure for his illness. Elijah told him to wash 7 times in Jordan River and he would be healed. But Naaman was in a hurry. He didn't have time for silly games. He thought Elisha could heal him by simply raising his hand. But Elijah saw it differently. Today, we are no different than Naaman, for we live in an impatient society. We are a fast food, drive-through, channel flipping, buy it now, easy credit, online buying, self-checkout lane, instant lottery ticket, self-serve, same-day delivery society. We want what we want, and we want it now. I think I've shared this with you. Last Christmas, a friend of mine came to me and said, "My son is very impatient." I said, "What is it about?" It's about gifts. He told me this morning that I don't know what I want for Christmas, but I want it now. What am I going to do with it? But you're going to see God has a different schedule. Naaman's illness was not going to be a quick fix. And Elisha could not be bought. All the lobbying efforts in the world were not going to bring Naaman instant gratification. He may have been an important and powerful person, but Elijah was a man of God. Elijah follows God's schedule. Naaman was promised restoration. but he would have to wait. And he would have to be humbled. Washing 7 times in the Jordan River would have been very embarrassing for a man of his stature. But Naaman had to overcome his pride to do what Elijah prescribed. In Life Together, a book written by Dietrich Bonhoeffer, he says, the part of the discipline of humility is that we should be available for other people to serve them. That's part of it. Second thing is, we should not go according to our own calendar. We have to somehow align our calendar with God's calendar. It is not according to our prescription and our desire God acts. Today we have been given 3 scenarios. The service of a little girl, a slave girl to Naaman. In the gospel lesson we are seeing 70 people sent according to God's schedule. And then Paul in his letter talks about the implications of our life together as Christians. Naaman's story is a healing story. It reminds us that God is a healer. Naaman takes risks to honor God by bearing each other's burdens. In this story, a little Hebrew girl plays her part. Servants convince Naaman to go with the instructions of Elisha. It is a community effort that you see. Naaman wanted to back out. First of all, he was insulted. Elisha did not even come out of his house to meet with him. He sends his messenger. So he had every reason to go back. But the community around him, the servants and the little girl, they all prompted him towards this healing process. This talks directly about the church. In our relationships, in our church, how are we able to get together for the healing of a person? And particularly a person who doesn't look like you. You know what happened last week? In a tiny town where the relationship between the police and the black community have been very uneasy. It is just 5 miles away from Ferguson, Missouri, where racial tensions boiled over following the 2014 police shooting of Michael Brown. This section of North St. Louis is a place filled with contradictions, poverty, crime, and distrust. Its neighborhood long divided by racial profiling and race-based policing policies. But it's also a place where a black young woman held the hand of that dying white police officer last Sunday. She stayed with the officer, using to call for help from his radio, bearing his burden to fulfill the law of Christ. It is a place of contradictions, not unlike the banks of the River Jordan, where a dripping wet Naaman, a foreigner and a leper, was moved to declare, I know that there is no God in all the earth except in Israel. The gospel lesson today is about sending people out to proclaim the gospel, the good news of Jesus. And I think we have been sent as a church. But what is our challenge in the midst of all this? How do we treat our neighbors who do not look like us? The little maid gave Naaman the information that would change his life forever. We live in a culture of violence. This is something we need to do as a church The church has been designated as the healing agency in the world. How do we deal with our mission? What is it that we are supposed to be doing? We have to proclaim that there is a living God in this world. The living God can bring about peace in the midst of chaos, love in the midst of hatred and violence. And I was reading a story about this, and I think that tells us directly what we are supposed to be doing. A pet store owner put a sign in his window, "Puppies for sale." Before long, a little boy showed up, asked if he could see the puppies. The owner whistled, and the female dog came out of the house with a litter of puppies following her. 5 were perfectly healthy, full of energy, but the 6th limped badly and could barely keep up with the others. "How much are the puppies?" the little boy asked. "They are $50 each," said the shop owner. The boy picked up the lame puppy. He pulled $2.50 out of his $2.50 out of his pocket and said, "I'll take this one if you let me pay for it with my allowance of $2.50 each week, and for the next year until he is paid for." The owner shook his head and said, "No, I can't sell that puppy to you. The vet says that his hip was injured while he was being born and he will never recover. He will always be slow and he will never be able to keep up. If you really want him, just take him. I'll give him to you." The boy shook his head in return and said, "No, he is worth every bit as much as the rest of the puppies. And I want to pay the full amount besides." And with this, he pulled up his pant leg and revealed that one of his legs was twisted, shrunken, and encased in metal brace. And he said, "This puppy is going to need someone who understands him." This is what we are supposed to be doing. Our mission starts with seeing our own brokenness and looking at the brokenness of the world. How can we look at ourselves and our brokenness and look at the brokenness of the world? Then evangelism becomes effective. This was D.T. Niles, who was a Sri Lankan theologian, who said this: "Evangelism is one beggar telling another where to find food." In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen.